Halo, Okay, hello class. I hope we can all hear me. Sorry, I've been having network issues, but I'm here now. Today we want to look at our corrections. I marked all your work. I think it's only one person whose work I failed to submit, but the rest of you, I did mark your work. When I looked at some of the common mistakes you're making, you have small mistakes you're still making. For example, you have issues with making an essay. If you look at essay writing, I told you last time that an essay should have an introduction. And from an introduction, you have what we call, within your introduction, you have a definition and any other relevant information or history about the subject we're discussing. So when I look at some of the work you did, some of you were making small mistakes, and we shall be able to correct them. So let us see how we can share from the questions that we looked at. I hope you can hear me. Amanile, can you hear me? Justin, can you hear me?
Sir. Yes,
Okay.
I can get you.
Okay, and then also I want to question those who did not hand in their work. I don't know why. Gloria, can you hear me? Gloria, can you hear me? Yes. It seems some people are not hearing. It could be a network problem. I had it in the first 5 minutes, but now I am okay. The network is clear and I hope we're good to go. Bwami Benjamin, can you hear me? Benjamin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
All right. So if I'm to begin, did you hand in your work?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you score?
It's a 60.
Yes, now a 60 for section A, that is roughly less than 30%. If I'm to look at it out of 50, I think it's roughly there. So I would not consider that very good. Why? Section A is a section you must endeavor to score at least 45 and above. Because if you can be able to get 45 and above out of 50, it means you're only looking for 5 marks in section B. So students, I'm encouraging us to improve our section A. And there are very small mistakes we are making, and I'm very sure with this interaction, we can be able to make it. Then the other thing I want to talk about is question selection. Some of you really, there are people who have, I don't know if annoying is the right word, but I don't know how on earth someone would go for a question that they barely understand. I want to look at some of the questions we looked at in our Google Classroom, for example. Don't worry, I'm not going to show your marks to everyone. I'm only interested in my assessment. If I'm to look at the questions, turned in late, Waswa John, I think I'll mark your paper. I'll be able to share with you. Other people are sending in now, I'll keep marking. If I look at our questions, some of us are really, I don't know, I don't want to say funny, but usually when I'm with the boys alone, I tell them it is being funny for a person to choose a number. For example, if you look at these numbers, let's look at them. Assess the role of private sector in your country. Examine the effects of increased population on the environment. Give reference to your country. What has caused the rampant school dropout in your country? Examine the limitations of teaching practical subjects in secondary schools in Uganda and suggest solutions. Now, when you look at that, the first step to passing a GP question is question selection. Usually it is funny when students say, I chose the question I knew, and then you fail it. You chose a question that is, some of you choose questions based on how unique you think you're going to look when you do a question on private sector, or when you do a question that is not going to be done by everyone. So for me, the first step to passing GP questions is question selection. You have 4 numbers in section A. What would be that number that can fetch you marks? But what guides you to choose a number? Look at the common topic that you have data on. Look at a question that you've understood and do not read the first question and attempt that question. Try so much to look through all the questions and pick the key terms and try to define the key terms. So it really confuses me to see that a student is unable to attempt a certain question and simply rushes to pick the very first question in a paper. Read up to the last number for you to be able to share. So for me, I think here, most of you, I have issues with those students who simply went and picked the first number. So I would think the first number isn't as always number one for you to start with. Look through all the numbers and choose wisely. Let us start from here. If you look at these questions, for example, which question do you find favorable to you as a student? By show of hands. By show of hands, let me see. Yes? By show of hands. Let me see. Wami Benjamin, let me start with you. Which question did you do?
Question 3.
Question 3. If we look at question 3, it reads, what has caused the rampant school dropout in your country? To me, that is very okay. Now, people who went for private sector, really, I want you to look. Let's be reasonable enough. I am not discouraging you, but I'm now teaching you how to choose questions. If you look at private sector and school dropout, which one is more near to you in terms of everyday life? Which one seems easier? So people who went for private sector, I really got shocked because you have very little knowledge about private sector. Yes, you could have learned it in economics, but then also I would think school dropout was a simpler number to do. Number 2 is very tricky on its own. The person who did it misfired. I will look at some of those questions and the little hooks we put to them. So number 2 was also not a very easy question for you to do. Let me see a next person. Rita. Yes, Rita, your hand is up.
Number 3.
Number 3, okay. I think that's the
I
common
answered
number.
Number 3.
Okay. Any other person who answered another number? Joy Lavens. Joy.
Same, I also answered number 3.
Okay. Justin. Justin.
Sir, I also answered number 3.
So to me, that would have been the best question for all of us. I'm not discouraging people, but I'm only teaching you that look for a question that fetches you marks. The question which you do not have a doubt of the other side. Examine the effects of increased population on the environment. Give reference to your country. Now, most of you have very little knowledge when they set a single aspect to determine the rest. Examine the effects of increased population on the environment. Did you really understand the question for those who did that question? So I really felt most of you did this work without doing any research. You have time to be at home. Now, GP, there is knowing the points. Then there is how to state the points. So I want us to start from those who did the number on assess the role of private sector. I'm going to quickly introduce what it is, and then you'll be able to do for us. So those who did that number, could you come and help us? What was your approach? What do you think that question wants? Yes, Enoch, your hand is up. Now Enoch's hand is up and then he runs away. Excuse me, sir, I didn't get my work. How do we get marked work from Google Classroom? Okay, we're going to answer those questions. You simply go back to your Google Classroom where you submitted. You'll be able to see everything is there in Google Classroom. Number 3, okay, fine. I want us to look at, let's handle the number I've just asked us to do. Who can give us the approach to that number? Those who did number 1, because I want us to look at it in an orderly way, then rush. Or we do the number which we had done, which most of you did. Let's begin with number 3. Who can give us the approach to number 3 very fast? Those who did number 3. What has caused the rampant school dropout in your country? Yes. Who can be able to give us the question requirement there? What do you think is needed? Raymond, Omenya?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Like, according to that question from me,
Mm.
we are first supposed to know what school dropout is. We
Mm.
define school dropouts. We give
Mm.
some references if they are there. And
Mm.
then we start going into our points.
Okay, could you define for us what school dropout is?
According to me, school dropout is when someone doesn't complete a course he or she is pursuing.
Mm. Now, give me any other relevant information around school dropout.
Other relevant information about school dropout, it's like when someone's like drop out of school because his parents cannot provide school fees for him.
Now you're already going to the points. I'm talking about any other relevant information, for example, the history. When you talk about any other, yes.
Okay, the history about the school dropout, actually, I don't know, but I should first have to read like more newspapers and try to search from the internet.
Okay, now let me give you a guideline.
Mm.
When you're trying to discuss the history of it, you tell me, for example, between girls and boys, between primary, secondary, and campus, which one has the higher level? That is all relevant history. Are we together? So you'll be able to tell us, for example, in the primary section, in the secondary section, between girls and boys, then talk about tertiary institutions versus campus. All that is what we call relevant information.
Yes.
So when we are balancing, because remember we need to get 5 marks in our introduction. It is, you get those 5 marks by defining. After defining, then you give relevant history and perhaps examples before even you look at the factors that result or the effects of school dropout. So that is what we wanted you to be able to do.
Okay, like for case of the references, according to me, school dropout is most likely common on the secondary school girls. Because they are at the stage that they can easily get pregnant when they have sex, so they end up leaving school.
Some of you are only accusing girls. It's okay, I will come back to that later on. Thank you so much. I hope the rest are hearing from that, and then we shall build our discussion around that. So I expected all of us to be able to define what school dropout is and give any other relevant information. So let me see if I can be able to share any my part, and then see how we can go about it. Okay. I was trying to share from my drive, but it was disturbing. Let me now share from here. I had good material around here. Then we can see how to go about it. Yeah, those Those documents. Maybe drive. Yes, Raymond, your hand is up. Raymond, your hand is up. Beata, seems Raymond is not hearing. Yes, those whose hands are up.
Teacher, do we need to explain even the definition of rampant?
No, is that rampant is not really a key term. Are we together? It is not really a key
Yes,
term.
sir.
The key term is school dropout.
Okay.
Yes, that is the key term.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. The rest is just something small. After the definition, you give the relevant history, like we have been discussing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
You're welcome. Mm. Mm. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to look for some work, but it's giving me a bit of a bloody nose. So when you look at that number one, with what we have already, it literally stops at you being able to do that. Then when you look at effects, what are effects? If you look at effects, we are looking at what has resulted, because that's what the question is asking from us. What are the results of such an occurrence? You know, because they're telling you what is the effect, what has caused the rampant school dropout? Causes, what has brought about, why do people drop out of school? What has made people to drop out of school? I expected you to be able to at least give me 10 well explained. Those people were outlining points. For example, someone tells you maybe people drop poverty, full stop. That is listing points. At secondary level, we state a point by saying, for example, poverty is one of the causes of school dropout. So most of you were simply listing the points. You say poverty, you say pregnancy. So I expected you people to have at least a very organized way of presenting those points. Those who did that number, can we very first share? What were the common points you gave in? Yes, what were the common points you gave us? By definition, others are sharing. School dropout is when a learner fails to complete school or a college course. Okay. The best mark, someone is asking, what is the best mark? What is the GP pass mark? GP, if you don't get 50, you don't score a point. That is GP. If you don't score a point, you fail to score a point at 50. Let us share for those who did number 3. What are the common causes that you majorly had? Let us share very fast. Lavins, yes?
Okay. My point is pregnancy among the young girls. Okay, let me try to explain, okay?
No, first begin by stating it before you explain. State it as a GP point in secondary. It is the first point, yes.
I say pregnancy among girl children. Then I continue.
Yes, state the point.
Okay, pregnancy among the girl children has also caused rampant school dropout in my country, Uganda.
Now you're giving us, listen, you're giving us the first point and you're saying has also. Which one was the first? Do you see that?
Oh, I thought it was point,
no,
sorry.
No, we're not building another point. We're starting with you. So I want you to give us, your point should have a subject in it, and our subject is school dropout. It should stand on its own. It should be stated in such a way that it can stand on its own, even without the explanation. It makes sense that we are dealing with school dropout. For example, if you say poverty is a general thing. It can be the cause of death. It can be the cause of any other thing. But this time around, I want us to discuss it in line with school dropout. So you make sure the points you state are in line with school dropout.
But I think I'm just not ready to begin. I think I will come in when we are giving points. I'm just not ready.
You're a big coward.
No, not really, but my points are just for
okay.
The ones
I will respect your choice. Let me take on Simple J. Simple J, you're starting the discussion.
For academic performance, as opposed to about school dropout in Uganda. This is because person is normally affected negatively by his or her performance in his or her studies, which makes him or her drop out of school and try other things which create for him or her positive mind. Yes?
Simple J.
Yes, sir.
For example, in case you have children, your firstborn and your lastborn, you have like 6 children, who would you introduce first? Now, that is the same thing with general paper. You begin with strong points. Do you think poor school performance is one of the leading causes of school dropout?
No.
Now, I want you in your own analysis to look at the key points. The first one, so that you have a very strong essay beginning. Start with very strong points. That is a point I agree with you. But it should be coming like number 6, 7 down there. I want the very strong points beginning from up this side.
Okay.
So you're going to give me numbers. Now I want you to state that point. Yes, very strong point.
Okay. How do you think also of course school dropout in Uganda? Most girls drop out of school when they get pregnant because they feel like they have to stop their studies when they give back in order to take on their responsibilities as mothers of their babies. For example, can I say like sir, or an example like trying to inquire if I can say like a district where animals normally take place.
Yes, you can talk about, instead of a district, talk about regions. You get, you can start with the region, then you narrow to a district, or you can talk about rural and urban. Which one is most affected?
Okay. Rural areas.
So that's what we are talking about in your discussion. Always begin with strong points. Thank you. Let me take Joanne. Joanne? Joanne? Some people's hands. Yes, Joanne.
To begin with pupils in the primary level, crashing to secondary level, poverty has been ranked first, and this is due to the fact that primary school fees are far different from secondary school fees. Especially in remote areas.
Okay, so your point is?
Poverty.
Okay, so it's our second point. So I want you to state in such a way that, so that our essay flows.
Poverty, which has been ranked first as a cause of school dropout, especially in remote areas for pupils crossing from primary level to secondary level, has also been considered an effect, especially in remote areas.
It has been considered a cause. Okay, so you can start it by saying poverty is also among the leading causes of school dropout, especially for those transitioning from primary to secondary level. Do you see that? Now that is a complete point with the subject and everything you need in it. Then the other explanations come in, like you're telling us in rural areas and all that. So for me, those are good explanations. However, I want us to start by learning how to state the point. After stating a point, such a point can be explained. Now, to explain a point means you are making meaning of the terms you've stated up there. For example, what does it mean to transition from primary to secondary? Are we together? So what does it mean to have high fees? Then you tell us that schools charge a lot of money. Now, that is what we talk about school fees. But now here you're explaining that secondary schools charge a lot of money, which most parents in rural areas may not be able to afford. Then you come down and give us an example. For example, look at Kampala parents. Kampala parents pays higher than Chambogo University, more than so many other schools. So you can be able to state the schools. There is no harm because these fee structures are known everywhere. You can be able to tell us the school fees of secondary schools like Chitende, St. Mary's, Chisobi, that are extremely exorbitant. So you can be able to state those things and share with us. I want you to learn that general paper is not how many lessons you attend to, but what you benefit from a single lesson. For example, when we're talking about stating points, are you able to go and practice how to state points? It doesn't matter how many points I give you, but are you able to state that point and explain? So let us get another point. Emarot Emmanuel. Emarot Emmanuel, first, what did you get? Emarot Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
What did you get?
So I did not submit my work because I was not around.
Those are very good excuses, but only good enough to lead you to another direction. Do work and
Sorry,
submit.
sir.
It's okay.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Okay, share with us. What do you think? Give us another point.
So my point is mainly drug addiction. So if I'm to explain this point, drug addiction, in that many learners
you cannot explain what you've not stated, Emarot. First state your point.
Drug addiction. So drug addiction, in that many learners have been involved in drugs. For example, marijuana. Like here now in Uganda, we have the likes of Dava. So these drugs to some extent tend to cause mental retardation. And as a result, these learners tend to leave. They tend to drop out of school.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, you can also tell us in that same point, maybe to state it better, you can state a point by telling us, for example, that many drug abuse, or rather many students are involved in drug abuse, which has diverted their attention from school, hence school dropout. Are we together? So you state a point that is relating. Then that explanation you're giving will come and expound the points. Thank you so much. I just want us to be able to get question approach and other things. Abila is sharing with us. He says we should get one for us who really need help in GP. Abila Julian, Senior 5. This is Senior 5. I've just joined Senior 5. Oh, it's unfortunate you have just joined, but we are here to help. Even next week, we shall be having these lessons. Don't worry. Medi, come in. Medi.
Okay. Uneven distribution of schools and social resources discourage many students, where students of northern Uganda and other parts of the country move over 1 kilometer to reach school stations. By the end of the term, the student might have been discouraged, hence leading to school dropout.
Okay, now I want to arrest you from there. The term you've used is uneven distribution, isn't it? When you talk about uneven distribution, it means there is unequal distribution of schools. Other areas have many. Instead, talk about the distance, you know, maybe talk about the long distance between the students and the school. Most times they will work for a few months and they give up. The uneven distribution later on is far-fetched. However, let's talk about the distance from school to a child's home. That also affects. The schools that are super far or very far from a student easily discourage students from attending school, because no one can be able to walk or ride a bicycle. Those would really be very many kilometers away. Okay, thank you. Excuse me, sir. You are some as a single subject, then they explain later. Excuse me, sir. Why are some people giving points as a single subject then? I did not get that. Infinix Hot, let me just ask you to come in. Your hand is up already. Could you explain what you mean?
Excuse me, sir.
You're excused.
Yeah, some people, like, they're giving in points, for example, giving a point of drug addiction. This person comes in and is saying drug addiction, full stop. Then
no, that is wrong.
Exactly. So
I explained it. I tried to expound it, but you can make more meaning of it. Make it a statement.
No, not on drug addiction. I'm giving my own point.
Please.
Yeah, for example, my point is lack of education facilities has also led to rampant school dropouts in our country. This has been due to poverty in our country, whereby most parents, especially in rural areas, lack enough funds to facilitate for their children's education.
Do you know you have given 2 points in one?
No. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. State the first point you said.
Shortage of enough education facilities has also led to rampant school dropouts in our country.
Now that's what you should be able to explain, that there are few. However, that might not apply to everywhere. That means you have to narrow your discussion. For example, if you go to Mukono, around Wakiso, Kampala, Mukono, Mpiji, there are so many schools around that area. So someone from there might not accept your point. You will say this person is generalizing. So do not generalize. You can be able to make your point regional. And talk about limited facilities, maybe in the rural areas. Are we together? Because in Kampala we have very many facilities. Actually, they are shipping students from rural areas to Kampala. St. Mary's Lugazi is always driving up to northern Uganda to look for students to come and study in Lugazi. So let's try to make the points more practical and more feasible. And when you're explain that point. Don't bring another point to explain the other point. You'd have lost so many marks.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Let me get another student. Tevin.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
I'm just trying out. It's my first lesson here.
There is no worry. No one canes here. I stopped caning last year.
Okay. Among the major reasons of school dropout in Uganda.
Pardon?
Teenage pregnancy is also a major reason to school dropout.
Okay.
Since most major schools in Uganda, like school rules, like if you get pregnant, it will bring a bad picture to that school. Yes, so when you get pregnant, and it's like giving an example to other students, so they have to banish you from school.
Okay, so you can talk about strict school rules. You can talk about strict school rules which do not also, by the most times, even if you just narrow it to school rules, strict school rules, which most times are extreme. For example, it results into expulsions and suspensions. Those also discourage students, because already we had a point on pregnancy, but now you can talk about strict school rules, which are usually punishments, for example, that are administered either through suspensions or expulsions. These also tend to discourage students and they leave school. So that could be a point on its own. However, I don't know, I want to hear from students. Are we now trying to see how you state a point? Because I've realized most of us, some people even number points now this is not senior 4, now you are in senior 5. Please, let's not number points. Those things of saying number 1, number 2. In senior 5, we do not number points. We state points in indented paragraphs. We do not skip lines. This is not O level. Now you are big people. I'm orienting you now. You missed orientation week. Avoid, and then others were underlining points. I know that is a hangover of O level, but we are now growing. I know we shall come out of it, and I'm here to help. Let me take Danila.
Yeah, this is my first time too.
You are most welcome. I'm your teacher.
Thank you. Yeah, one of my points is peer pressure from their talents that they think are more important than education. Let me say like singing, which forces them to drop out from school and go start up becoming like,
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, like peer pressure from their talents, which forces them which forces them to drop out from schools and start up music industry businesses.
Okay. Now I want you to stay on. Let me call someone here to be our judge. Gloria, are you on? Gloria, are you on? It seems Gloria is off. Gloria, what is peer pressure?
Peer pressure is when like teenagers decide to copy or do what others are doing. For example, like when someone is taking drugs, he or she also get to do drugs just because a person in his age.
But do you know also that peer pressure can make you read because others are reading?
Yeah.
Now, that's what I'm trying to tell Danila. Danila, the point you've mentioned is neutral. It falls either negative, it falls on both sides. It can claim a negative, it can claim a positive. That's why you should be able to tell us that negative peer pressure. Okay. Do you understand, Danila, what I'm trying to drive at?
Yeah.
Never leave your point neutral, that a person can easily throw you out and mark you wrong. Yeah. Make sure you tighten your belt. By the time the person sees your point, they have no excuse but to give you your 3 marks. Okay. So the actual thing should be negative peer pressure. That is very true. And most of you gave that point and I accepted. Thank you so much, Gloria and Danila. Let me have, now there are people whose names I can't pronounce because of my regional dialect. but I'll just, the person I have told to unmute has a K and a Drusilla. I don't know what a Drusilla is.
Okay,
Yes.
teacher, my name is Drusilla.
Drusilla.
Yes.
I am very sorry I couldn't pronounce your name, but come in.
It's okay. Okay, teacher, what if I say neglect of responsibilities by some parents has also contributed to rampant school dropout in Uganda?
Okay.
These are such parents who probably start having children without a proper plan for them. And eventually in the near future, the children tend to become more of a liability to them because they tend to become more of a liability to them since they are in. Yes?
How so?
Because these parents had these children without a proper plan, or probably these parents whereby actually they don't have enough income to accommodate the necessities of the children. So
can I shock you?
90%
of the children in Uganda are not planned for, but that is between me and you, no one is hearing. The point is supposed to be this.
Yes.
Neglect of parental duties. For example, many parents ignore to pay school fees and provide necessary scholastic materials to their children. Yes, that would be a point.
Then the explanation.
You want to explain?
No, like Sammy, I try to explain in a way that
I will take your explanation. It's correct. Just the stating of the point is my issue.
Teacher, pardon it again.
I'm talking about neglect of duties by parents. You know, some parents are actually very, very absent from their children's lives. For example, they do not pay school fees, and there are very many of these students who you see your friends going home and never coming back to school. So neglect of parental duties. So most parents do not pay school fees for their children and provide scholastic material. Imagine a girl who is studying and she has no pads. Imagine a boy who is studying and he has nothing, you know? So all those students eventually fall out because they don't feel at home. They don't feel like the rest are feeling. So those are things we're talking about, the role of parents. So sometimes you call them the absentee parents who are never there to look after their children. The other related point to that, I don't know if someone could be able to, I saw some people sharing points related to I think scholastic materials, but we have combined them and we can go with that. Let me pick
Teacher,
yes?
excuse me,
yes.
Teacher. What of the effect of single parenting? Like, is it in line with that point of neglect of responsibility?
Now that is a bit far-fetched. However, that comes more under issues to do with domestic violence and child abuse. The issues of single parenting. It is usually overwhelming for a single mother or a single father to look after children. However, here now we're just talking about issues of poverty and other things. So the point can also come back later on to poverty, but the other one is there are very rich parents who do not want to pay school fees, so neglect of duties, especially in terms of paying school fees and looking after the children.
Okay, teacher.
Okay. Now, students, I know the 1 hour is never enough for general paper. If we're given a whole day, we'd be able to learn. So what I will do is all the questions we have not discussed today, I will carry them to the other week. In fact, this is what we shall start from. So what I will share with you today, I will only share one question. Then the rest, I will keep revising them as normal lessons as we look at other things. Wensonga, let me pick Wensonga. Wensonga?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, you have something to tell us?
Yes, I actually answered number 1, so I wouldn't have the exact criteria to give to state my point. Just brainstorming. Yeah.
Okay.
Could I talk about the conservativeness and rigidity of some parents who are
now, yes, you can talk about it, but in line with, let's talk about it in line with the cultural rigidities. Altogether, the presence of rigid and and backward cultures which still consider girl child education as forbidden. Most cultures do not promote, but there are now very few. You can talk about that, cultural rigidities. I don't know if, Wensong, are you there? Okay, it seems Wensonga is off and on network. What of lack of information about sexual effects on education? Not really talked about early pregnancies, and early pregnancy is a result of this. So let's not prolong, let's be straight to the point, and we can be able to share that. Gloria, had you said something?
Yes, I have a point.
Please.
So I have a point.
Yes. Yes.
Academic failure contributed to the school dropouts among children because excellence in school requires reading hard, and some students don't read hard. So when someone reads hard, they're higher than that, and when someone doesn't read, they're lower than that. So that consistency of lower marks in school demotivates some students, leading to school dropout.
Okay. Now you can blame the student, you can blame the school. Either way, you will have your point. Are we together? For example, you can look at maybe extreme. There are schools that are really extreme. For example, they tell you in senior 3, you must have an average of 70 to be promoted. If you look at schools like Namugongo, they expel, I mean, they academically, they discontinue students termly. Those are some of the things that are discouraging. However, not all. So you can be able to maneuver that and you come up with something. But naturally, there are students who are not bright. Naturally, when it's not your fault that you're not bright, and eventually you opt to jump out and do something else. So that can be, but those are some of the last points you should be able to give us. Infinix Hot 4, I don't know, what's your name? Can I name you? Infinix?
My name is Tina.
You're called Tina.
Yeah.
Okay. I prefer the other name, but I guess here it's just okay for us to hide who we are. Tina.
Okay, sir. I would like to say a point of maybe pressure to marry. Can that be a point?
Yes, talk about early child marriages. The other day we were watching TV and we saw girls of between 12, 8, actually 10, 9 there to 12, 13, less than 15 years old, and their parents were shipping them for marriage because for them they wanted cows. Definitely no one goes to marriage at such an early age and manages to continue with their education. So you can talk about early child marriages have also caused school dropout.
The pressure to marry comes in as an explanation, right?
Yes, that this is usually from the side of the parents. The fathers want to earn cows other than wait for you to get the cows when you are in your 30s. They prefer to get their cows when you are 12 years.
Okay, sir, thank you.
You're welcome. Cyrus, unisex.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My point is like there is this point of pandemic or like corona nowadays, which has made schools closed, and it is still down. More guys, I don't hope most of the guys will go back to school due to the pandemic.
You mean the students, not guys, the students, huh?
Students, even the one guys. Yeah, so by the time schools, girls will be in marriages, others will be in business, others will be gone, and by that,
gone where?
Doing business. They will probably be interested in the schools.
I agree with you. So that should even come as number one of recent. You can give that as number one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, I'm sorry for those who have not spoken, but at least, okay, Abia, very fast. I think you're the only person who has not spoken. Abia, just greet us and then I tell people off.
Okay, hi, teacher. My
Hello,
answer is
Abia.
high rampant growth due to the COVID-19 pandemic has also caused to school dropout.
Has caused school dropout. Yes, that's what Cyrus was just telling us. So you guys are sharing a mind there. Thank you so much.
No, rampant growth. Like children have grown so fast these days that they don't want to go back to school because they feel they have grown so much.
Okay, now maybe you can talk about they have been discouraged due to the long stay at home. They have been discouraged or they have lost appetite. Are we together? They have been discouraged by the long spell of staying at home. That can come as an explanation under Cyrus's point. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay. We have taken a lot of time. Ms. Takakuru, if you're there, my apologies. Students, thank you so much for attending this lesson. And next week we shall take a break, but after that we shall be back. And I'll always be here to help you. Those who reach out, I'm always here to help you. So we can say bye to each other in the next 1 minute. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
Bye.
What's up?